Welcome, Nikki.
Nice to be here.
It is so good to have you here.
So good.
I personally feel very privileged to have you here. You're already famous on the Humanize platform. Obviously, you had a massive impact on my life and Ian's life. And I just feel, I'm going to get emotional. I've already said this, we've got the tissues ready. So yeah, I feel really honoured. And yeah, thank you. I know your story has been a story, and big ups and, you know, some really, really hard downs. And we're going to be, I guess, navigating the conversation of loss in your life. So I'm going to stop talking before I lose it. And tell us a little bit about your story.
Whoa, that's a big question. Like where to begin? Because there's definitely parts of it that. So I'll just start at the beginning. Yeah. Okay. So, my parents married when they were very young, and they divorced when I was about 4 or 5.
Wow.
And then I was put in an Air Force children's home when I was about 5 for a year. My brother and I, and that's because Mum was just trying to figure out where to from here. And so we were there for about a year, and then when she came to get us, she had another man with her, and we moved around a lot in those early stages. And then she married him finally when I was about 9, and I kind of remember thinking, we've got this lovely family, finally. And I was bridesmaid at her wedding, which is gorgeous. And then when I was 13, it all came crashing down because he had an affair and the marriage imploded. And so he left, and my brother left home at the same time. He was 16, then I was 13, and it was just Mum and I. And so she then met with, another year later, she met another guy, and he was kind of like a Crocodile Dundee kind of guy. He was a Kiwi. And she went and lived in another part of England with him, and I was doing well at school at the time and wanted to stay where I was, didn't want to be rooted again. And so I went to live with Guardians when I was 14, and I was with them for 3 years when that marriage ended, so that disintegrated as well.
My goodness.
So then, at 17, I went to live with another set of Guardians, and for my last year of school before I went to university. And so I kind of internalized the fact of, as you said, really, I was like, is it me? You know, what's going on here? So I went off to university and did an honours degree in English and education, and while I was there, I became a Christian. So I met some amazing people, went to an amazing church, and it just flipped my life around. And having said that, it did, but I felt like I still did a little bit of sitting on the fence while I was there at uni. And then after I finished my degree, it was a good time then for me to come out to New Zealand because my mother had moved here with her partner, and I thought, let's go and spend some time with her now. So I came out here as a 21-year-old, and got a very good job when I was here. And my mum wasn't a Christian at the time, and I then met my husband through the work that I was doing. So we started, he was a client of mine, and he had just had a kidney transplant. And so he was in this space of his life where he was looking for someone to thank, and so he was really intrigued with my faith. And so we spent a lot of time. He wanted to go to churches, but he was just a friend. But very quickly Andy gave his life to Christ and became a Christian, and then him and my mum were actually baptized on the same day. So it was phenomenal for me to kind of see, you know, their journey. Andy was 10 years older than me. He had been divorced before because he had lost his kidneys when he was 21 to a strep throat infection, and so his wife at the time had left him after a couple of years, just couldn't do life on dialysis. So he had come from that background of a broken marriage himself. I had come from that history of being a child, had gone through all these broken relationships. And so when we got married, we made a promise to each other that we would do something constructive to build our marriage every year, because we knew you can't just hope for the best.
Yes, totally.
So anyway, that led us to go to, a couple of years into our marriage, we went to a family life weekend, remember? Get away.
The best.
Love
it. I've been very confronting.
It is very confronting.
Hard to get me back now.
But we went to that, and it changed the trajectory of our life, because Andy came out of that saying, this is what God wants me to do. I know that for a fact. And so it took us a year, but then we joined full time and we ended up being the directors of Family Life. So we did that together for the next 25 years.
Wow.
So the ministry side of it was amazing. We were seeing God do incredible things in people's lives. We loved it. But on the other side of that, we had a lot of personal challenges that were kind of running in like two train tracks, really, holding these two things. And so Andy, as I said, he'd had a kidney transplant just before I met him. And 8 years into our marriage, he woke up one Boxing Day and I heard him say, uh-oh. And I knew then that something wasn't quite right. And he had discovered a lump in his groin. Now, he'd had a lot of skin cancers removed, like up to that point, about 200 of them. So we'd had health issues ongoing. So anyway, he went into hospital with this lump and they said to us, this is not good. Get your affairs in order. We need to operate immediately. This doesn't look good for you. So anyway, he went in, he had the operation, and he came through that. That was okay. But it meant that he lost his kidney transplant 6 months later. So he ended up then back on a kidney dialysis machine, and we had that machine in our home for 17 years.
Wow.
And every second night after work at Family Life, he'd come home, he'd plug into that machine, and that was our life. You know, from 7 o'clock at night to 2 in the morning, he would do dialysis and get up and do work again. So that it was, if you know people that have done that, it's hard.
Yeah.
Dialysis is a hard lifestyle. But we got into a good routine and we navigated that really well. We coped very well. Andy was an amazing positive person, so it made it easier. And then a couple of years, I can't remember the dates, but say 5 or 6 years later, Andy, due to the dialysis, Andy ended up having another condition. He had to go into hospital to have an operation for it. And he ended up having a post-operative stroke. So he was paralysed all the way down his left side of his body, and he couldn't eat, he couldn't sleep, he couldn't talk, he couldn't do anything. But he regained a lot of that back. So we kind of navigated that. We then got back on track again, back into a routine. And then I think it was 6 years later after that, we felt like we were at a good time in our life and in the season of our life. Our kids were growing, they were thriving. We had these 3 beautiful gifts from God who we didn't actually know we could have when we first got married because of his health. And then the worst of the worst happened. And our oldest daughter Natasha, she was 16 at the time, was going off on a school trip. As you know, you were there. I don't want to look at you because I would cry.
Yeah, look at Abby.
And so she was going off on this amazing school trip. She was excited to go. And Andy and I actually stood on our patio outside our lounge, and we had just sent her off to her friend Portia's house. And we said to each other, we were just kind of toasting what a great young woman she was. You know, she had a passionate faith with Jesus. She was thriving. And we both said to each other, I remember it, we said, I don't know what would happen if we ever lost Tash. We actually said those words. I don't know why we would have even have thought that. And it's almost like God prepares you. Anyway, she went off on that trip. And then, of course, it was the Tuesday and the weather was terrible. I picked up the other children from school, came home, and all of a sudden, it was actually your mum that rang me, and she'd put the news on, and she said, isn't Natasha at OPC? And I'm like, yeah, why? And she said, something's going on there. And I kind of just dismissed it and said, there'll be other kids, you know, they didn't know what was happening.
Happen to you.
And I was actually booking to have a haircut, you know, typical woman, just carry on and have the haircut. So anyway, I was like, no, everything's fine. And Andy was dialysing, and I went out in the car, and I remember driving to the hairdressers. And all of a sudden I started to get incredibly fearful, and I started to cry in the car. And I said to God, please let her be okay. And I don't know why I would have even thought that, because we didn't know anything then. And I sensed him say to me, she is okay, she's with me. And I was like, no, I'm talking to myself, this is crazy. So I had my hair done quickly, got out, got back into the car to go home, and again I started getting really emotional. I was like, God, please let her be okay. And again he said, she is okay, she's with me. And it was just bizarre. Anyway, I got home and, you know, the rest of it all unfolded. And, Natasha was one of the 6 children and the teacher that died in the flash flood there. And so that was just the worst of the worst. Yeah. And I remember that night just lying on my bed, actually lying on Natasha's bed, 2:00 in the morning. The policeman had just been to confirm, and you know, our house was just in chaos. Yeah. And I just retreated to her bed, and I lay on her double bed, and I remember looking out across the water, and the moon was out. It was a full moon, and I remember looking out there and saying, "Okay, God, now's your moment." Yeah. You know, like I am at my deepest place right now. Yeah. This is where you come in, you give me an absolute revelation, and I get to see you, and you tell me that everything, it's all going to be okay. And there was nothing. It was just total silence, and I felt so alone. And I remember then at the time thinking, where the heck are you? You know, this is my deepest need right now. Where are you? Yeah. And then it was interesting because shortly afterwards I just sensed he brought back that memory to me of Christ dying on the cross, and Jesus called out and said, you know, why have you forsaken me? And that reminded me, yes, he felt that in his moment. And I'm so thankful for scripture because I can read that and know that God was there, even though he didn't feel it, and that God was working out an amazing plan that was going to change the course of mankind. But so I was able to look to that and say, this has been felt before, yet God is here, even though I don't feel it. So that was a really, really tough time. I can't even put into words how hard it was. And then of course 2 years later we had to go through all the court cases because all the prosecution and stuff like that was all happening, and again God gave me an incredible moment that I will never forget. And I had done 2 years at this point almost, and I did not want to live anymore. I was basically like, I just miss her so much. And it's not that you love your loved ones that are with you any less, it's just that half your heart is in heaven. And I was like, oh Lord, you know. And then I remember I was folding some clothes that were Natasha's that Olivia was wearing, and as I was doing so I was picking up her clothes and smelling them, and I couldn't smell her and I couldn't see her in my mind anymore, and I felt like in order to move forward with the future I was having to leave her behind, and I felt like I was losing her all over again. And I remember just crying out to God and saying, I can't lose her again. I just don't want to do this. And he said to me in that moment, he said, Nikki, you're not leaving her behind. And he said, what's happened is that she has stepped out of your past and she has been moved into your future. And now every day you live is a day you're living towards her, not away from her.
Oh my goodness.
And it was amazing because, I mean, I knew that in my head, but I actually got to feel it in my heart. And that was a game changer for me because it meant that I could then look forward to the best was yet to come, you know. And so it really did change my whole perspective on doing life again. That was part of my journey there. And then of course it didn't get better because Andy then went and had 2 heart attacks shortly after that, and I think it was due to having a broken heart. And then I feel like this is all about just loss. But then we were, the kids kind of were growing up, and we were finding our groove, and you know, life grows around your grief. And then Olivia got married, which was amazing. She married Asher, and then Ben left home, both on the same day. So we became empty nesters on the same day, just immediately. They both left to go to Australia. And so they went, and then 4 months later, Andy's mum died, and we all live on the same property. So there were all of us, Andy's parents and us, we all grew up for 25 years on this place. Wow. It was amazing. That's amazing. The kids left, and then mum died 4 months later, suddenly to an aneurysm. And then 10 months later, Andy passed away suddenly due to issues with his heart, and then Dad passed away 6 months after that. So all of a sudden it was just, I was on my own, and it was just like, whoa, just so much loss all in one go. And I think when Andy went, it was kind of like, even though we'd lived with his health issues, you never think that's it's always somewhere in the distance it's going to happen, but not now. And so there's been a lot of loss.
And surely you think, why me again? Like you feel like you've had your dose a little bit of that, and then here we are, your husband passing away, the love of your life. They say the hardest grief, I could be wrong, to go through is a child. Passing is the most excruciating pain that a human will ever feel, is the loss of a child. So because the situation somewhat was out of your hands with Natasha, how did you get to a place of forgiveness?
Yeah, and that's interesting, isn't it? Because forgiveness was easy on the one hand and it was hard on the other. So it was okay to move through it in the way that we taught it at Family Life. I mean, we had been teaching on the principles of forgiveness for a long time, so I knew the process in my head, and I knew the benefits of forgiveness. But where it gets hard is when your human emotions get in the way. And as you said with Natasha's, over time it became a litany of errors. We thought it was an accident to begin with, but then there were things that happened, and so you're navigating that as well. So you have to do a lot of forgiveness because there's a lot of people that you actually have to forgive. And so I think I discovered that forgiveness isn't a one-off thing. It's something that I've had to revisit time and time again. But every time I've chosen to forgive, and it's not been easy, but every time I've chosen to forgive, I felt like God has just lessened the pain a little bit more. And you're then not dictated by your pain so much, which is, and you may know that quote, forgiveness sets the prisoner free, and then you realise the prisoner was me. It's a gift that we give to somebody, but we benefit for it. But it's not an easy journey, but it's a necessary one.
So true. What do you think is your biggest battle you find today?
Today it's probably being on my own. We've done, Andy and I did 25 years of marriage together, but not just marriage, we did ministry, we did our life, everything we did together. We created things together, we wrote books together, we just did everything together. And so, and I am a people's person, and so I find it being on my own. And also it's been hard trying to find my place in family life too, because it's a marriage ministry. And I'm like, okay, I'm now a widow. What do I have to offer here? All of that. So I think just finding your identity again, and finding, so now God, what do you want to do with me? I know I'm not over yet, so still here. So I think, just finding my place again has been difficult. And I think now and again, it's also been dealing with disappointment in God. I mean, I never thought that this would be a road that we would travel. And so I have been disappointed. But I've wrestled with that with God, and He's brought me out into on this side in a good place. But I think you have to go through that, and you have to be honest, and not put a band-aid on it. Pretend everything's fine.
And it's that relationship with Him that is able to get you to that space. Is having that, asking the hard questions. What is one thing, or I'm sure He's taught you a lot of things, that Andy has taught you that you'll never let go of?
Oh, gee, I could write a book on that. Well, because there's two of you, I'll give you two things. Okay. So Abby, for you, I'll say the thing that I think the one thing I'll always be thankful to Andy for is he taught me to say yes more than I would say no.
Oh, wow.
So I was naturally more of a no person. I was good with boundaries, I was kind of like, I was quite protective.
Yeah.
And so an opportunity would come up and it'd be, can you do it? And I'd be like, no. Or the kids would ask for something and my natural inclination was to go, no. And then I'd have a discussion and we'd go to yes. But and so I feel like, and Andy was the opposite. He was always yes. And so the kids would ask him something and then he'd go yes, and then he'd think, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said yes so quick. Maybe I should have said no. Yeah. But anyway, it was a good challenge for me to learn that in yes are so many opportunities.
Wow. Yes, that's so
for me anyway. I know other people, they may need to learn to say no, but for me it was learning to say yes. And when I did, God just opened up so many spaces for me to step into and share. And it was doing it while I was scared, in the fear. So saying yes without feeling prepared. And I've seen him, because I've done that, I've seen him do immeasurably more than I ever would have thought.
Wow.
And so I've learned to say yes and just, okay, he'll give me the resources when I need them as I get there.
Yeah.
So that's been good.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And Emma, the other thing.
Thanks, I'm going to carry that one on.
The other one for me was the power of reflection. Has been massive. And I learned this actually after Andy died, because we were going through his computer and we found this list that said 5 questions to ask myself daily. Now it was actually 7, so Andy clearly wasn't good at maths, but anyway, there were these 7 questions, and I knew he was reflective, but these are the questions that he asked himself every day. And I want to read these because I just want to imagine if you did ask yourself these every day, how amazing our life would be.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first one was, have I done something of value today?
Wow.
Did I make a difference in someone's life today? I like this one. How did I show Nikki how much I love her?
Oh my goodness.
He was such a great man.
Did I take good care of my body today?
Wow.
Did I have a positive, optimistic attitude today?
Wow.
Did I honour Christ in all my dealings? And did I do anything I need to apologise for? I know.
My life has forever changed. I am getting those on my wall.
I know. I just think
put those up.
they're beautiful, and I think
goodness.
if we all were more reflective at the end of the day it's called confession in the olden days, I guess. But if we were just more reflective, I think of how we do our daily lives,
it would change the next day.
Absolutely,
Yes.
So they're 2 powerful things I take with me: reflection and say yes.
Yeah.
Which is why I said yes to you.
Yes, I'm so glad you did.
A big fat no.
It would have been I don't think so.
Oh, it's so good, and we're so honoured for that. He was such a great man.
Yeah, he was.
He was, and
He
I got to
really
do
was.
life with him.
Yeah, he was so special, so special.
Yeah.
I guess with everything you've been through, and obviously, you have faith and you've got a strong relationship with God, but as you say, you've navigated disappointment.
Yeah.
In all of that, how have you known that He's still a good God?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. I realised after Tasha died that there were some things about my faith I didn't like, and I didn't know that until she died. So I realised I had a bit of a transactional faith with God, and I had that, what you said before about, that you've been through so much and now this, and there was a bit of that, like, hang on a minute, haven't we been through enough, and now there's this, you want us to do this? And I didn't like that about myself when I discovered that. It's like, actually, I've got expectations on God here. Who am I to think that I can do that? And so I realised that actually God's goodness stands independently on His own. My circumstances and my feelings are not... His goodness isn't dependent on that. They're actually 2 separate things, whereas I'd welded them together, meaning if things aren't good, if things are good, then God is good. When things aren't going the way I want them to, then hang on a minute. And so it was like, no, this is an independent, God is good, and this is going on. And so I think kind of splitting those 2 things was very helpful for me. And also focusing on His promises, what He promises. I realised that there were a lot of promises I thought that actually weren't promises, and so, and understanding, I think too, that those promises that He gives us are not just for this life. Because
Yeah.
I remember one that I struggled with, and that was that he gives you the desires of your heart, if you're seeking him. And I remember saying to him, but what about Natasha? Her desires of her heart were to be a mother, and you didn't give her that.
Yeah.
And through that, he taught me that, okay, that promise is not just for her time on earth.
Wow,
You're walking into a relationship with me for eternity.
Yeah.
And so I've got eternity to fulfill those promises.
Wow.
And I thought, actually, I'm looking at this little bit of time and basing everything on this. But he says, you've got a whole life,
Yeah.
And so I very much have this image of her being a mother to all these little kids in heaven growing up, and so, we don't know how those promises are lived out. Yeah. But it's not just for now, and we have to remember that it's for a lifetime, a lifetime we haven't yet seen.
Yeah.
It's amazing. We put so much value on earth as though it is the only thing that really matters. It's like, how will we cope if loss does knock at our door, or this happens to me, and we do forget about the eternity side and how powerful that is, and that's a place without sickness and without pain, and is good and joyous and exciting to reach, and we're trying to build that kingdom. But it can be hard to have that perspective when you're so surrounded in here. It's like, I don't know what I'd ever do if I lost my friendship with Emma, but it's like God has a major bigger plan than what we could ever imagine, and we're doing things like this for his kingdom. So we're trying to have that perspective every day. But I think he gets that. He gets the hard juggle of it. He's like, I get you're down there in the grind of it. And that's why he's so understanding and teachable when we ask him.
I used to say that, I'm looking forward to heaven one day. But I know Jesus is there. But, I'm actually quite good down here. My life is gone sorted. Yeah. And then when Tash and Andy went to heaven, I felt bad to actually admit that now... Actually, I'm really looking forward to a lot more than what I was, because those people that I've done life with who, yes, Jesus showed up in them for me, but they're there with him too. And so, and he gets that. He gets the fact that I'm looking forward to seeing them as well as him. Of course he does. So I've now gotten much more of a upward focus.
Amazing that you can pass that on. And for anyone who's navigating loss at the moment, what's a practical tip that you could give to them?
I think grief is such a personal thing, and we all go through it so differently. If you're going through it with a partner, then I would say remember that you do it differently, and to give each other the space and the grace to do it differently. There isn't, and not to create meaning around it. So that's the first one, because it's easy to look at somebody else and say, well, you're not expressing it like I would, so what's wrong with you? But practically for me, I actually found journaling incredibly powerful. It was the place, it was my raw space where I could just get it all out down on paper with God. And I have got a book of stuff that he taught me and revealed to me through that time. And one day I'd love to put it actually into a book, because they were great conversations and I learned so much. And so that was hugely valuable for me. The other thing that was very valuable was actually creating grief spaces in my schedule. So for example, you can't allow yourself to live in that space of grief all the time. It can't permeate into everything, because you've got to do life. And we had 2 other children we were raising who needed us to do life well. And so it was like, okay, but I am going to recognize I need to release this emotion. I need to allow myself, give myself permission. And so I'd schedule grief parties, pity parties for myself. And I'd have a couple of hours and I'd get the photo albums out and I'd cry and I'd reminisce, and then I'd wipe them all away and put them away and get on with life. And for me, I think compartmentalizing it was actually very helpful. And it meant that I didn't dump my pain on everybody that I encountered. So I dealt with it in that way. And actually another woman that I spent some time coaching, one of the things they did, and I love this idea, I didn't do this, but somebody bought them a punamu, and they kept it on the drawer in their cabinet at home, and they basically said they'd lost a child too, and they said if anybody was having a tough day, then they could get the punamu out. Am I saying it right? Is that the right accent? Yeah. They could get it out and wear it. So they wouldn't actually have to say to anybody else in the family that they were struggling, but the fact they were wearing it was showing everybody in the family that they were needing a bit more grace and love for that day. And I thought, what a beautiful idea, because kids sometimes can't communicate that, but they could easily go and put it on, and they're telling the people, I'm struggling today. Wow. You know, and I thought, how many people are out there wandering around who've got broken hearts, and we don't know that. Yeah. But I thought it was just a lovely way to do it in a family.
Yeah, that's really nice.
That's amazing tips. Yeah. Someone's going to benefit from those. Amazing.
So obviously with loss, and I guess for people that have community around them or friends or family that are navigating that, it's always hard to know what to do. And you know, you just sit there going, it's just the meal's on the door, what do you actually do? And then you end up not doing anything at all, and you remove yourself because you're out of fear of not knowing how to navigate it. And obviously you'll definitely I guess know that and have experienced that, but what's some advice? How to do it right?
Well, I'll give a couple of don'ts and give a couple of do's.
Please do the don'ts.
So, I think I'd say don't Christianize it.
Yeah.
You know, people want to turn up and they want to give you a Bible verse, and they want to, look, it's all done out of a good place. People want to fix you. They want to take your pain away. They want to offer the hope in that they have to you. And so I get that. But when you're hurting, you don't want, you actually can't fix that pain. You can't make it better. It just sucks. And you don't need someone to say, well, you know what, Romans 8:28, God brings all things for, you know the verse. And quote all of those things, because all that does is that just dismisses your pain. And it's like, it makes you even feel worse, okay, as a Christian, I'm meant to feel this, but I feel this. And I think God in his own time reminds you in your heart of those things. You don't need other people telling you, because you then feel a second-rate citizen. So don't try and fix it or Christianize it. And I was going to say, and don't avoid. I mean, I know that people don't know what to do. They will say you will say the wrong thing. No, you will do the wrong thing, but do it anyway. Because I think to myself, I look back and think, even if I get it wrong, at least I've tried. And those people, when they look back, they will know you've tried. And also the people that are grieving have to also give grace as well, because it's an awful road to navigate. So don't Christianize and don't avoid. Really step into it. And then things to do is really, I think, look for opportunities where you can actually step in, and show people that you do remember. I even just little things I'm thinking, especially in those first 5 years, I had people that brought me Christmas ornaments with the names, Natasha's name on and Andy's name on, so I could put them on the Christmas tree. And that showed me that they realise I'm doing life without them. Your Chloe, she turned up one day, in fact only a couple of years ago, with a mug that she'd found saying life is about dancing in the puddles, and I thought she remembered Natasha's thing, thought of me and bought it. I felt so loved and so remembered. Other things that they've done, even just a couple of years ago somebody sent me a vanilla candle. They had remembered that was Natasha's favourite scent, and so they just sent it, and I thought that just makes me feel so loved.
It's amazing.
And also, and this is a powerful thing, ask the people that have lost somebody about that loved one. So my one of my colleagues did it just on the last anniversary. They said, I haven't met her, but would you mind coming for a walk with me for 10 minutes and just telling me about her? That was the greatest gift they could have given me. Wow. I was able to talk about
acknowledging her,
and I just it's remembering that we are, even though they've gone, our life, we carry them with us, and so we want to be able to talk about them and how they've impacted our life and what we miss about them, and all these things. They're just gifts, and so I think try and find ways to bring them into your life, because they're just doing life somewhere else.
Exactly.
We have a faith, we know that they're in heaven, and so just bring part of them into give them a permission to talk about them, I guess.
That's so awesome. I've definitely learned from those tips.
It's amazing.
Just I guess just being a normal human and communicating about it, and not avoiding a situation we tend to avoid more than go in.
And I get it, because I think people say, I don't want to bring it up because I'm worried it's going to make you cry and upset you. And it's like, well, do you think I've forgotten about them anyway? I mean,
and I cry anyway. Really.
And they're good tears. You can't. You asking can't make it worse. You asking actually just makes me feel loved and be okay with my tears. They're good tears. So
so great.
So good.
And after all of this, tell us where you are at now. What's going on for you in your life now?
Now, I think now is it's a season of recreating.
Whoa,
cool. So as I said, I've been with Andy for 25 years doing marriage ministry, and then it's like, well, what now? This is all I know. But again, I love how God prepares us for seasons, because 2 weeks before Andy died, I met with a friend who was a coach, and I said to him, not that anything's wrong with Andy, but I know that one day my life will change, and I'm just trying to think what's the difference. I'm thinking about what I would do one day in the future, and what was the difference between coaching and counselling. And so I had that conversation, and 2 weeks later Andy passed away. So it's like God prepared me for that time. So now what I'm doing is I'm still with Family Life, so I'm still involved in the marriage side of things. But I'm also trained in the last 2 years as a coach, so I'm an accredited certified coach, and I've also just graduated from training to be a lightning process practitioner, so I'm doing that as well. So I'm loving this next phase of me. This is something, I'm doing the stuff I did with Andy, but I've also got this new little baby too, and I feel like this is a chance to also develop something new and exciting. And so I'm excited about this.
Oh, we're so excited. You're so good at that.
I hope so.
You will be. I can tell already. You are good at that.
That's great. I guess how you've lived your life, like the fact now that you've gone through all of that, yet you are literally selflessly doing a career that is serving others. And which is incredible.
Well, I think that's one thing about grief too. I mean, like, one of the ways that you help yourself in grief is actually reaching out and doing something for someone else, because grief is incredibly self-absorbing. And so to do something for somebody else is a good thing. So no, I'm excited to see this next
purpose
stage.
for you too.
Absolutely.
Amazing. You're amazing. I'm very biased, but I do think you're absolutely wonderful. So community is big for us. And I know you will have so many people in your journey that have helped you along the way, but we do like to honour one person. So you can look into the camera.
I am looking into the camera.
And take the time to thank them.
Okay. So yes, I have been blessed, I think, with so many people around me that have really supported and encouraged me, as we all have. But I thought about one person who probably hasn't been recognised. I've thanked a lot of people in the past, but this person I probably haven't done. And actually it's Clive Wilson. Because Clive, you have been a part of mine and Andy's journey for many, many years. When Andy first came to faith, you were there. And when and a part of our journey into ministry, you were a part of that process as well. And then when when Tasha passed away, you provided me with a book on heaven, which was a game changer for me and really helped me to move through that time. And also through all of Andy's health issues, you've just been there praying for us, sending Bible verses every day when he was in hospital, coming round to the home. You've just been a pillar of just strength and God's love to us. And I just really want to acknowledge you, both you and Lorraine, because I know I'm not the only person you've done it for. You do it for many others as well. And so I would just want to say, keep on giving, because you guys are just so good at it, and you shine God's love through the way you care and love others. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Oh,
so
amazing.
good.
That was beautiful.
It was
I think we
so
should
good.
hug to seal it.
So good.